Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB game scheduled for Wednesday, September 25th, 2024. And if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my daily rundown best bet in the MLB, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. All right, here we go. Here are the games for Wednesday, Major League Baseball. First up, an afternoon game between the Mariners and the Astros, the only afternoon game for Wednesday. We got George Kirby and Yusei Kikuchi on the mound. Now, it's tough to go against Yusei Kikuchi right now. Since joining the Astros, they have not lost one of his starts. They're 9-0 since he joined them at the trade deadline. So, it's tough to go against that kind of, profit. But for me, the Mariners, they've really improved their game against left-handed pitching in terms of the walk rate, the strikeout rate. And I like their matchup against Kikuchi. And you look at some of the teams that he faced along the way of this win streak, pretty weak strength of schedule, in my opinion. He did face the Diamondbacks, but he gave up 4 runs and 2 home runs in that game. Other than that, the Angels twice, the Rays twice, some of the weaker lineups in the American League, the Royals, but we know the Royals have not been anywhere near as strong in the second half as they were in the first half. The Orioles have been hit or miss against lefties recently. The Rangers have had a disappointing season. So for me, even though the Mariners have not been known to be a great offensive team this year, they're actually one of the tougher matchups he's going to have since joining the Astros. And George Kirby's, we know he's a very good option on the other side for Seattle. Pitched well, quality start in that last game against the Rangers. He's had a quality start in 3 of his last 4 starts. I'm going to go with the Mariners in this one, getting a great price. They've won 4 of his last 5 starts in terms of Kirby as well, so he's been profitable recently. Give me Seattle in this one on the money line. Next up, we see the Chicago Cubs taking on the Philadelphia Phillies. Javier Assad and Christopher Sanchez are your starters. We've mentioned that Javier Assad's had a pretty steep expected ERA for most of the season, but he's still been able to pitch well for Chicago in 2024. However, recently, you look at his last 2 starts against the Rockies and the Nationals, he gave up a combined 7 earned runs and 14 base hits, a home run, and 11 innings of work. And I do think the Phillies, one of the tougher matchups he's had this season. The Cubs are just 2-3 in his last 5 games, so I don't really love him in this spot. Christopher Sanchez is pitching well for Philadelphia down the stretch. Last game against the Mets, he was good enough. 5 innings, 2 runs, 7 strikeouts. His control was off a little bit, but they backed him up in the run support department with a 12-2 win. They've won his last 5 games. Give me the Phillies in this one on the money line and run line. Next up, the Cincinnati Reds taking on these Cleveland Guardians. We're going to see Julian Aguilar and Joey Cantillo as the starters. The Reds have not been anything special against left-handed pitching in September. I know Cantillo wasn't his best in that last start, but I still think overall he's trending in the right direction. And, he's still given up 1 earned run or fewer in his last 4 appearances, whether they were starts or out of the bullpen. His strikeout numbers have been there. And while he may not pitch too deep into this ball game, the Guardians have one of the best bullpens in baseball. So if he can go 4 or 5 innings and then hand it over to one of the best bullpens, I think the Guardians win this game. So give me Cleveland on the money line. Next up, the Brewers and the Pirates in the NL Central. We got Freddie Peralta and Luis Ortiz as the starters. We've talked about how Luis Ortiz was excellent at the beginning of the season out of the bullpen. Has not been as effective as a starter. He is coming off a nice start, though, against the Cardinals. 6 innings, 2 runs, 7 strikeouts. I still think, though, Peralta is the better option. The Brewers have the better lineup and the better bullpen to go with it. So that's why I'm going to go with the Brewers on the money line. But really not a ton of value right now in this game, in my opinion. I'll lean towards Milwaukee. Next up, the Tampa Bay Rays taking on the Detroit Tigers. Zach Littell and Kiter Montero are your starters. Now, Kiter Montero had put together, back-to-back really strong shutout performances, but did struggle quite a bit in that last game against the Orioles. But that was A, at Camden Yards, and B, against the same lineup he faced, in the same week. He faced the Orioles back on September 15th, and then again it's on September 20th. So it was a tough matchup, and now you return home where Montero has been much, much better this season. You're facing a weak lineup in the Tampa Bay Rays, and Zach Littell, while he's pitched well recently and overall this season, he hasn't been the best away from Tropicana Field with a 4.45 road ERA. He's pitched well in his last couple of road starts, but I still think the Tigers are the better team here, and they're playing for a lot more. So give me Detroit on the money line. Next up, we see the Kansas City Royals taking on the Washington Nationals. No official starter for KC, but DJ Hurts should be going for Washington. I like the under in this game. And you look at the Royals, no official starter, but we can infer that they're going to use their bullpen quite a bit in this game. And for good reason. The Royals' bullpen's been excellent in September. the third best xFIP in the league, and a sub-4 ERA with great strikeout numbers to go with it. So I think the Royals have a pretty good game, pitching-wise, but DJ Hurts on the other side, while he struggled in that last game, that was on the road. He returns to Nationals Park in this game where he's been excellent this year with a sub-4 ERA, facing a Royals team that in the month of September has not been great against lefties at all. Very poor OPS and isolated power numbers. So give me the under in Nationals Royals. Next up, we see the Orioles and the Yankees. We got Nestor Cortes and Zach Eflin on the mound. Cortes has been strong in September with a 19 1/3 innings, 2.79 ERA baseball, 20 strikeouts to go with it. The Yankees have won 6 of his last 7 starts, and the Orioles have not been great against lefties in September. Zach Eflin on the other side has pitched well so far since joining the Orioles, but he's given up some sharp contact recently, at least 1 home run in 4 of his last 5. Give me the Yankees in this one on the money line and run line. Next up, we see the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the Boston Red Sox. We're going to see Richard Fitts and Kevin Gausman on the mound. Gausman pitched really well in that last game against the Rangers. He was pulled a little bit early, only 5 innings of work, even though he didn't give up a single hit in that game. And I think it's because, when you look at the Blue Jays, they're not going to make the playoffs this year. And there's no reason for especially a guy like Gausman, who was injured at the beginning of the season, to put him in a position to get injured now and potentially miss time at the beginning of next year. So I expect Gausman to go about 5 innings in this game, and that's why I like the Blue Jays in the first 5 innings. I don't love this Blue Jays bullpen. I still think Toronto has a chance to win the game, full game, but when you look at Richard Fitts, while he's pitched very well so far, he only has, a 4.02 Ks per 9 right now, so there are some big-time regression concerns, a 5.17 xFIP, 3.78 expected ERA, so I think the Blue Jays can get to him and win this game in the first 5 innings. Next up, a big-time matchup in the NL East between the New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves. We got David Peterson and Chris Sale on the mound, so pair lefties in this one. For me, it's a lopsided pitching matchup. Even though Peterson's pitched well on paper, we've talked about the regression concerns, and we're starting to see those. A couple starts back against the Blue Jays, his control was way off. The Blue Jays got to him and won that game. Last game, the same thing. Against the Phillies, no walks, but he gave up 8 base hits, 4 earned runs, 5 total runs, and he had 4 strikeouts, but that was a 12-2 Philadelphia win, and now the Mets have lost the last 3 games that Peterson has started. Going up against Chris Sale, one of the best pitchers in baseball and definitely the favorite to win the NL Cy Young, I don't think it's a great matchup for New York, so give me the Braves in this one on the run line. Next up, we see the Los Angeles Angels taking on the Chicago White Sox. Jose Suarez and Davis Martin are your starters. When you look at Jose Suarez's ERA at above 6, it doesn't look too pretty on paper, but you look, that's actually because of the beginning of the season. He's had 3 appearances, 2 out of the bullpen and 1 as a start since getting back to the major league level in September, and all those were no earned run performances. He gave up 1 unearned run that last start against the Astros, but he's been pitching pretty well, and you've got a White Sox team on the other side that we know has been miserable against lefties this year. Davis Martin was pitching pretty well for Chicago, but not so much recently. His last 2 starts, one of them against the Angels, he gave up 8 innings combined of 8 earned run baseball, 13 base hits, and the White Sox have lost a lot of his starts recently. Give me the Angels in this one on the money line. Next up, the Miami Marlins taking on the Minnesota Twins. Edward Cabrera and Simeon Woods Richardson are your starters. This is not my favorite game on the board, probably one of my least favorite, honestly, but I'll lean towards Minnesota. I just don't love it because Woods Richardson has kind of run out of gas here at the end of the season. The Twins have lost 4 of his last 5 starts, but on the other side, Edward Cabrera just gave up 7 earned runs and 5 walks against the Los Angeles Dodgers in a 20-4 loss. So for me, while the Twins are still in desperation mode, I'll lean towards them and lay the 1.5 runs. Next up, we see the St. Louis Cardinals taking on the Colorado Rockies. We got Eric Fedde and Austin Gomber on the mound. Eric Fedde, in 12 career innings at Coors Field, has given up 6 earned runs, a couple of home runs, and 4 walks with only 7 strikeouts. It's a 4.5 ERA, which is not miserable for a Coors Field pitcher, but certainly not amazing numbers either. I think the Rockies can get to him for a few runs. And when you look at Austin Gomber, while he did not pitch too well in his last game, that was against a much tougher lineup in the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now you face the St. Louis Cardinals, who we know have not been the best offensive team this season. They've been okay against lefties in the last month, but still a sub-700 team OPS. I think Gomber has a bounce-back start in this one. I think the Rockies win this game on the money line, so give me Colorado in this one. Next up is San Francisco Giants taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Mason Black and Zach Gallen are your starters. I think Zach Gallen's good enough here like he was that last game for a Diamondbacks win and a run line cover. I mean, Gallen he's not been as dominant this season as we're expecting from Gallen, and injuries have definitely played a role in that. But he still has a sub-4 ERA, a great win-loss record, and he's got one of the best offenses in baseball to back him up. So going up against Mason Black, who's still got an ERA just below 6, I think the Diamondbacks win this game and cover that run line. Next up, we see the Texas Rangers taking on the Oakland Athletics. We got Cody Bradford and Brady Basso as the starters. Brady Basso's pitched well so far, 19 1/3 innings, a sub-3 ERA, but the Rangers have improved quite a bit against righties in September, and the A's have not been the best against lefties this month, and I think Bradford can pitch well, and honestly, this is one of the rare occasions where I think the Rangers have the bullpen advantage. The A's bullpen was pitching pretty well, but in the month of September thus far, the second worst xFIP in baseball and a 4.97 ERA to go with it. So I'm going to give the slight edge to the Rangers in this game on the money line on the road. And the final game we're to talk about for the Wednesday card in Major League Baseball, it's the San Diego Padres and the Los Angeles Dodgers. We got Dylan Cease and Jack Flaherty on the mound in this one. Great pitching matchup and obviously a big-time rivalry. I like the Padres in this game. I've mentioned that their numbers against righties have been pretty strong in September, but I also just think Dylan Cease is the better option right now. I mean, his last game against the very tough Houston Astros lineup, he went 8 1/3 of shutout baseball. He only had 5 strikeouts, but the Astros are a pretty good team in terms of limiting strikeouts, so no surprise there. And San Diego's won 4 of his last 5 games. While Flaherty's been sharp, since joining the Dodgers, his last couple of starts were a bit shaky against the Marlins and the Braves. Now, both of those were on the road, but he gave up 7 earned runs and 10 base hits in only 9 innings of work, a couple of home runs and 6 walks to go with it. He's been a little bit inconsistent with the Dodgers, so I think the Padres can get to him and win this game on the money line on the road. And that's it. Those are the games for Wednesday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe and put those baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pickdawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.